We are here with a couple of pals of mine who are responsible for bringing a Velomobile, a new one called the Bulk, into the USA with a very special program. It's Greg Cantori and Ben Park. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Doing
Good.
fantastic. Good to see you, Gary.
Let's start with Greg. Greg was actually the gentleman who pioneered this whole program. And Greg, why don't you tell us about the story behind the ambassador program, if you would?
Okay, it's. I'm going to shorten it because it's a long one, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and shorten it. But generally, what happened is that I had this amazing run over the last couple of years of being able to go to Battle Mountain, Nevada, with my Milan SL Mark II from Canada, and was able to, over a period of a week, able to hit an official speed of 58.2 miles an hour, which was way beyond my expectations. My goal had been to do 55 or better. I was 58 years old, so I thought my stretch goal would be if I can beat my age, that'll be even better. And I did 58.2, and that included, by the way, a run back to Maryland because there was a hurricane coming up the coast, and we live on a sailboat, as you can see.
Anything to show for that run? What? There's that
There it
55 mile an
is.
hour hat. That's
International
amazing.
Human Powered Vehicle Association 55 mile an hour club. So I just still can't get over it. So the whole thing was that, wow, okay, that's amazing. I'm getting older. I'm not going to be as strong as I was then. And then Bill Thornton comes along in his Milan, and he hits, I think, 60.1 or 60.2 miles an hour at Battle Mountain. I said, game on. So I realized that I pretty much pushed my Milan Mark II to the limit. And then I learned about the new Milan Mark VII. And I was looking also, the Bulk hadn't come quite out yet. So I looked at that as maybe the next iteration, stiffer, a lot of small refinements on it, and decided that that's what I wanted to get. And so I went ahead and ordered that through the U.S. dealer here, but delays were commonplace. And eventually I contacted Jan out in Velomobile World directly and said, can I just come out and go ahead and pick it up from you? Because I looked at the shipping. The shipping was going to be around $1,800, I think, at that time. And I realized for $1,800, I could fly out to Frankfurt, drive to Romania, pick up the Velomobile, and then come back through Frankfurt, especially since I learned from Dave Lewis and Marcel Graber, who both did the Trans-America bike race, had flown on Condor and flew their Velomobiles on Condor for about $95. And I said, that's incredible. So that's basically what I did. So here I am. This is another dream trip because I've always dreamed of being able to ride a Velomobile through Europe. And I thought, what an amazing touring machine. And that's what makes these things, just blows my mind. Because I've ridden my Velomobile to work every day for 5 years, my Quest. And I was riding 50 miles a day to work from Pasadena, Maryland, into Baltimore. And I just thought it's such an amazing machine that I could go from commuting one day, racing in the Human Power Speed Champions, doing a sub 3 hour century, and then maybe I'd ride across Europe with touring equipment inside it, all in the same machine. It just blows my mind that that's even possible. And that's what makes these Velomobiles so miraculous in my mind. And so I contacted Jan, and he was so gracious. He said, "You know something? Your Velo is done. It's actually been sitting here for about five months, and come and get it." And I said, "I'm on my way." So I booked tickets and got a really cheap round trip flight through Condor, and got a rental car and drove out to Romania. I got to visit a cousin of mine in Prague, and this is a picture now of me at the Velomobile World. It's the only one I was allowed to take. Rightfully so. Jan is very careful about making sure that, as he develops new things, he does it through his channel. So, but he allowed me to take this wonderful photo of him and me. And I don't even know what's behind me. I think that's probably a DF behind me on there. And this was surprising is that there's my rental car is that a lot of folks don't realize how easy it is to carry the Velomobile on top of the roof. I've traveled literally across the United States to Florida and up to Canada with my Velo on the roof using just the foam pads and a tie down, just one tie down. I do two just for safety's sake. Thousands of miles that way. And I did the same thing across Europe because I wanted to pack as lightly as possible because my goal was to actually ride the Velo back to Frankfurt. But because of logistics, it just wasn't going to happen. So I ended up getting the rental car. But I still had my foam pads there. And all you do is put the rear wheel on the hood of the car and roll it right up there and slide the blocks under and throw a strap over it and you're ready to go. And so I drove I guess it was about 900 miles back to Frankfurt, stopping along the way in every country and doing at least a 60 or 70 mile loop through Austria, through Hungary, the Czech Republic, through Slovakia and Germany. Did I miss any countries? Oh, and don't forget Romania. And while I was in Romania with Jan, we started brainstorming a little bit about he said something about why is it that I'm able to sell so many of these in Europe, but I can't seem to sell many at all in the United States. And I said, well, mainly it's usually a marketing thing. It's still very uncommon, and we really don't have at that point an active dealer. And so we both started brainstorming and thought, maybe something along the lines of using volunteers, and I'd be willing to be a volunteer. And maybe using volunteers to promote the idea of your new model, the bulk. We could come up with this plan. He said, if we did that, I would go ahead and give a substantial discount for the bulks, and maybe we could pick 15 to 25 potential velonauts to be bulk ambassadors. And I said, that's great. And, on my end, what I will do everything I can to get the word out through all our media channels, let people know about the opportunity, and also come up with an agreement that this is what an ambassadorship would look like. And so we came up with that. And so as I got home, and we put those plans in place.
So now you got back to the U.S. Now, how did we get to Ben's portion of the story?
we put out basically a request for proposals. So we had an ambassador agreement, but then we also put out an advertisement, so to speak. We put that on Bent Writer, Facebook, and I emailed people personally. I've been so lucky in this whole journey to get to know so many wonderful folks around the country and in Canada. There's a number of us in Canada. And, I was thinking it's going to be hard. I think maybe we get 10, 15. But literally within, I think, 3 weeks, people like Ben responded. And I think we had 35 to almost 40 serious inquiries about, I want to be a bulk ambassador. This is amazing. It's an amazing machine. And it was so cool. And the hard part was we started to have to say no. And we being by Jan and myself. So I worked as a surrogate salesperson, I guess, or marketing person for him as a volunteer. And because I just want to see more of these machines in our country. And I want to see more people enjoy what they can do. There's just so much to say about it. And so over a period of about 2 months, it just took off. And then someone like Ben shows up who's really, really great with the technology of all of this, is able, I understand, read the German forums. So he understands all the details as the bulks are hitting the streets out there, and has been a rallying place for us on Bent Writer Online with information and resources. So what's so great about this is organically a whole bunch of us have come together across the country. We even had several Zoom calls together, have come together, met each other in person, at least online, and discuss what this means, how it's going to work, and coming up with the logistics of shipping and configuration.
Look, why don't we throw it over here to Ben and let Ben pick the story up and tell us about some of the details from there as to the ambassador program. So Ben, take it from where Greg left off and tell us how you came into this and how you've shaped this program.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly just an informational source. Like Greg mentioned, I can I can understand German relatively well, thanks to a few years of high school German, and so I've been trying to kind of collect as much information for people as I can. It's kind of it's a little bit overwhelming to purchase a vehicle like a velomobile when you've never actually been in one. And so I know for me, I like to learn as much about it as I possibly can to see, is this something that's going to fit well with where I ride? And so I've been just spending a lot of time researching, reading through the German forum, asking a lot of questions of Jan and other riders. I've talked a little bit to some of the German dealers and to Holger Seidel, who did the record ride from south to north in Germany, just to try to see, what is it that's unique about the Bulk, and how will it relate to riding here in the United States? We have some kind of unique riding situations. Our weather can be, up here in the north of Minnesota where I live, we have pretty harsh winters. And so how is the Bulk going to work here, in cold weather if we have to deal with ice and snow? What kind of tire widths are we talking about? Versus, when you get down into the south part of the US where it's really hot, what kind of ventilation options does the Bulk have? And is it something that's going to be really flexible? And in my research, I found that this is a pretty incredible machine.
Ben, I'm wondering if you can tell us what sort of requirements were put on the purchasers of the Bulk in this program. What are they expected to do? They got this nice discount. They're going to get a Bulk on delivery. What do they have to do?
Our main goal is to obviously promote the Bulk and velomobiles in general. So there's some advertising on the side of it that's very tastefully done. There's a nice QR code that people can scan, and will take them to a website that Jan's been developing with profile information about the riders and about the Bulk itself, and how you can order one, and to contact us about as far as getting a test ride. And then as ambassadors, we kind of take it from there and talk to folks that are interested about it, and offer them the opportunity to sit in one, take it out for a ride, kind of help them through the process of ordering one, and learning about the different features and the different options and what specific things they want to select. We go to some larger gatherings of bicycle riders, and like some large group rides and that type of thing, where we can get some good exposure among the cycling community and introduce them to the concept of velomobiles. And then just to be, that friendly guy out, or girl or whatever, out for a ride. And, somebody will come up to you and say, "Hey, what's that?" Get in a conversation and, take the time to really introduce them to the idea of a velomobile.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I thought we might want to finish up here. That's a good point, Ben. So we're all really wanting to promote velomobiles in general, and I think it looks like you guys are taking that view. So if we could finish up, maybe Greg, if you could start out and tell us how you think this hopefully will affect velomobile status in the U.S. In general, and then Ben, I'd like your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I think that each of us who have ridden a velomobile has had the police stops, the cameras hanging out of people's cars as they go by, taking pictures of us, people actually waving, trying to stop us to talk more about it. And some of us have even come around with little information cards and so on. I think the QR code and the fact that we have bios on each of us as ambassadors is helpful, so they get to know us as people and so on. But the ultimate goal I want to see on this is a normalize in the United States this new advanced way of cycling. And I think this is really the 2.0 of cycles. For 100 plus years, we've had the standard two wheels, and they're still great. They always will be. But this is a new iteration of a faster, safer velomobile. Ben, noted the traffic safety on this, and A lot of us have had really some bad crashes that frankly either would have been lethal on a regular bicycle or much, much worse on a regular bicycle. The Velomobile with the exoskeleton, as I call it, protects us and also shields us from the sun, shields us from the bad weather, and also provides advertising space on there too. So it's got a lot going for it. And so my goal on this is that it's time to shift our transportation modes into more human powered mass transit. And this is an exciting way to do it for folks who otherwise may not want to ride a bicycle, or actually may want to actually look at converting from a car to something else. I mean, again, I was riding 50 miles a day. I did that on a regular bicycle, but as I got older, the Velomobile took me to the next 5 years of doing that in great comfort.
Great. And Ben?
Yeah, for me, the thing that got me into Velomobiles is how cold it can be here in Minnesota winters. And, I like to get my exercise, but it gets old doing it on the bike trainer. And, I thought, a Velomobile would be perfect for doing that. And it is. It totally is great for extending the riding season. And for me, it's become like Greg, more and more, it's becoming more my primary source of transportation. Gas prices are kind of crazy. And yeah, I agree. It's time to move towards a greener form of transportation, and Velomobiles are perfect for that.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen, let's last question. When is the container getting here? When are all these fine ambassadors going to be able to finally slide into their bulk and start pedaling?
Yeah, the last time I talked about Jan, he said that the shipping companies he's working with wouldn't get him a quote quite this far out yet. So he's got to wait until we get a little bit closer, just because shipping rates can vary so much. I've talked with him a little bit too about some air transport options, and we're still working on the details with that.
Yeah, I'm brainstorming quickly here that maybe one of us can fly back to Romania and shepherd a whole bunch of them on Condor Airline. Well, I also want to kind of keep it a little quiet because I don't want them to stop shipping these things and say, hey, wait, we're losing. Because the truth is they're probably losing a lot of money shipping this thing for $90 or $95. It's just amazing.
Dude, you're in the wrong place for keeping it quiet, I think. So, gentlemen, thank you so much, both Greg and Ben, for sharing all this wonderful information about the very interesting ambassador program for the bulk. And we appreciate you spending the time with us, and we look forward to seeing what happens with the bulk here in the USA. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.